So a lot of the times when we sign up for important things such as policies, certain types of insurances, we will always be generated a certain document. It's a couple of pages and you see it written in very small letters. In most instances, I know you will agree with me, a lot of us don't read those documents. Do you think they're just giving you those documents? Or service providers just for the fun of it want to give you those documents? No. They contain very important information which is for you to know. But in most instances, we don't read those documents and we don't keep them safe. But let me tell you now, those documents are pivotal. Those documents are a game changer. Those documents are what will enable your family to get access to everything that you've ever taken out. And those documents will protect your estate when something happens to you. So today, I am going to tell you at least 5 documents that you should keep safe and that you should have readily available somewhere. I know it's not easy, but when you get an opportunity, read some of these documents because they contain a lot of the nitty-gritties, those terms and conditions that you need to know about whatever it is that you have taken out, right? So to those that are new here, hello. And all those that are coming back, good to see you again. My name is Yolanda Mnyengeza. I'm an attorney and a director at a law firm here in Johannesburg, South Africa. So I don't want us to waste any more time. Let's get to the content. So what are these documents that I say are important for you to keep, right? Document number 1 is an insurance policy document, i.e. a funeral policy document, a life policy document. So those documents that are generated for you contain a lot of information about your specific policy. For example, who's the main beneficiary here? What's the value of this policy of yours? What are the exclusions, right? Because this often sometimes is a problem when people are not granted the funds and they don't understand how is it that we're not given the funds under these circumstances. The exclusions are on that document, and it's always best that you have it stored somewhere alongside your other documents to enable also your family, if something such as this comes up, for them to be able to look through it and ascertain whether or not that particular exclusion is justified under the circumstances. And plus, in relation to policies, this has become even much more critical because a lot of the people in this day and age have now started seeing that a lot of their beneficiaries start changing and they don't know the people listed there. So it makes sense for you to keep those initial documents that have specific information about the people who are going to benefit from you, right? And also, I like to say that just check up on your life policy from time to time. You are able to generate with some service providers, the contract once more, so that you can see what is going on. And if you need to check, always make sure that you double check, because a lot of the times, or something that's quite prevalent these days, is that people are seeing things that are not a true reflection of their policy. Document number 2 that you also need to have and you also need to keep safe is a document relating to credit insurance. So what is credit insurance? So normally when you take out a debt, either a service provider is going to offer this to you and say, we're going to put in a credit insurance just in case you lose your job, just in case you pass away and the debt then has to be settled. There's going to be this insurance that's going to cover the remaining debt. Now, this credit insurance often is going to be allocated to the amount of money that you pay on a month-to-month basis, the repayment value, right? And so if you were going to pay, let's say 40 Rand, they would then say, okay, if you're taking an insurance cover on this particular issue or on this particular loan, we're going to add 10 Rand. So you're going to pay 50 Rand every month. So the reason why this is important is simply because at times these things will not be clear when you've passed away. And so, your family will not necessarily know. And in some instances, you'll find that people think there was a credit insurance, but then because there's no particular documentation pertaining to that particular debt, it's not very clear whether in actual fact there was a credit insurance. So what then is best to do is for you to keep those documents that contain all of this information, because in those documents, it's going to be clear whether or not the repayment value also includes a credit insurance. This becomes critical, right? Even when you have your clothing accounts, this is always available, your credit card, etc. Because once, for example, you pass away and this is not readily available, you can imagine the amounts of debts that you have, and everybody coming and screaming and saying, you owe us, the estate owes us, the estate owes us. That often accumulates to a very big debt. So if you know you've got a credit insurance on a credit card, you've got a credit insurance on your mortgage bond, you've got a credit insurance on whatever debt that you have, clothing accounts, etc., keep those documents in one place, because it's not going to be very clear, for instance, from your bank account what you were paying for, because this is normally not a separate payment. It often will also be included in the repayment amount that you make on a month-to-month basis. So what's going to make it clear as to what you're paying for is that document. Do you see why it is important? There's a lot of people right now who have that particular issue where they think, and they're so convinced, that when it comes to certain debt or debts, their loved one actually did have a credit insurance. But now problem is, service provider is disputing. There is no prima facie proof anywhere. There's no document to show that in actual fact, if they actually did this. So to avoid all of that, rather have those documents kept somewhere. And plus, this is something that you should be thinking about if you don't have credit insurance, because it is there to ensure that your estate and your family doesn't get subjected to all of these problems, when you pass away. Those tiny debts such as clothing accounts and all of that, those things need credit insurance. There's no need for your family to have to deal with those debts when you pass away, or your estate to have to deal with those debts. Make sure that you at least have this in place, right? Let's go to the third document. The third document that you should definitely keep safe, that you should definitely have somewhere so that your family can get access to, is the documents relating to your pension fund, right? And I'm sure you have statements, because I know pension funds actually send through statements as to how much your pension fund is currently, right? But more than anything, on those pension documents, there's mainly two things that you want. Number one, you want the pension fund number, right? And number two, you want the nomination form to be clear and to be there, right? Again, with some people, they've experienced a situation where nomination forms have disappeared. Nomination form is nowhere to be found. At least your family, if they've got a copy somewhere, that could assist to a certain extent, right? But these are critical documents that you should keep. Then with a pension fund number, this is also critical. Mind you, in most instances, when people want to do anything and they don't have a pension fund number and they don't know what pension fund this is, it's going to be a very difficult journey. It's going to be an uphill battle. Believe you me, trust me. And so it's best then to have that document so that people have access to that information. That information is going to make things easy. It's going to make it prima facie that number one, you left behind a pension fund, and this pension fund was held under a certain company. And number three, when you pass away or prior to you passing away, it was sitting at this amount, and this was the nomination form. These are very critical. They play a significant role, and they will allow your family to get access to your monies without any delay, without having to resort to litigation, because it calls upon that sometimes because of the lack of this document, because now your ID number is seen as this unhelpful number, whereas it is meant to significantly show who you are, but now makes things difficult. So let's go to the fourth document that I say is extremely important for you to keep. And then the fourth set of documents that you need to keep, right, and need to be readily available for your family in case something happens to you, are documents relating to your investments, documents relating to preservation funds, are documents relating to your annuities, are documents relating to your shares, etc. Again, with these types of things, there's always numbers that are issued as soon as you take out any of these, whether it be a policy number or whether it be a contract number. Believe you me, the easiest way for your family to get access to any of these things is for them to actually have those numbers that actually identify you, right? And so it's best that you keep this safe. Again, sometimes you don't have these conversations with the family. People then they just tell their family members that, you know what, I do have this and that, but often people don't know where these things are situated. And I always say you don't want people to be doing a fact-finding process here, because we've got too many service providers in South Africa. So once you have such documents, it's clear. This person had shares at this particular company. These are the shares that they had. This person had an investment policy, and this is where they had an investment policy. This is the type of investment policy. And, there's always statements, guys. This is also another thing. Statements as to how far they are, and this is what they probably have or had prior to them passing away. All of this information makes things easier. Your family has ease of access. Imagine you just passing away. No document, no nothing. Your family will have to go door to every service provider to try and find what exactly their parent or whoever left behind. And this is a very difficult process. Guys, we don't have a pool where information is sitting in relation to any of these products, unfortunately. A lot of people have been struggling. It's been years. You'd like to maybe find a pool where you can get access to all of this information, but it's not available. And so to make things easier then for your family, you specify or provide all of these documents, you keep them safe somewhere so that when something happens to you, they can literally go and collect this document easily so, right? And you keep it safe. You don't want them to see it right now, and that's okay. It's safer that way, right? And it's good for them. But they must know that it is available and it's accessible somewhere, right? If something were to happen to them, you prepare them through discussions so that they are also not going to be so lost. Now, the way in which you then prepare them is you also become prepared. You also need to be aware of what you have, what it entails, right? And this is where normally estate planning comes in, because you want to understand exactly what you have. Then you prepare them that worry not. If something happens to me, there's going to be things to cover you here, to cover you there, to cover for this. That way, even when they have lost you, they will have, as much as they're grieving you, they will not be so stressed about what are we going to do, because you would have educated them that you are secure in this particular manner, and so worry not, I have prepared for you. This is extremely important, because one of the things that I've noted with people is that often when they lose a loved one, in addition to being extremely, extremely hurt by what has happened, you hear them say, I'm worried about how we're going to go on when this person was this to us, when this person took care of us, in entirety. That's where also, in addition, now the worry comes in, more than us now being able to grieve. So once you have these types of discussions, it brings them at least some form of peace to a certain extent. Then they can grieve you in peace. All right, so let's go to the last type of document that I say you must definitely have. And this one, the most critical of all. The last document that should be safe and secure and kept somewhere is your will. This one I cannot stress enough. We often have phone calls from people asking, did my mother leave a will with you guys? Mind you, we're not really that old as a law firm, right? But it seems as though people get so lost because nothing was said to them, but they do remember or recall this person saying, no, I do have a will. Again, in this day and age, how many people draft wills? How many service providers are there? I mean, how many attorneys, officers, are there? And so where would anybody start? Even that inquiry is often going to be a futile one, right? It's not going to be very fruitful. But you see that people are trying their luck. So this one, you make it a point. Number one, it is kept safe. And number two, it is always updated. And number three, it's going to be readily available to your kids. Again, this is part of that discussion that you're going to have with them as to how things are going to work. You're not necessarily going to tell them, what the bequests are going to be. You just leave it as that. But you have the discussion as to, what you actually have put in place for them, that they shouldn't worry. There is a will to cover for everything, so their bases are covered. And a will is one of those critical ones. Like I said, it doesn't only protect the interests of the family, but it ensures that at least the things that you were working so hard for, people don't have to fight about. They don't have to be sought because people are not in agreement. You will have made it clear who gets what and how, right? So guys, those are the 5 documents today that I say are critical for you to have in place and secured. Preservation fund documents, your your investments, your policy documents, your credit insurance documents, your pension fund documents, and lastly, your will. Critical. And if you have these in place, believe you me, your family will not have so much difficulty. They will have room to grieve for you, knowing very well that at least we were thought about, we were prepared for, right? So that brings us to the end of our discussion today. May you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Again, my name is Yolanda Mnyengeza. I'm an attorney and a director here at Mnyengeza Attorneys, which is a law firm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And I always say, if you found this useful and you thought this was a bit of education and you think it could be useful to another person, you like, you share, you come back. We'll see you next time.